A spectacular performance. Curry from half court.
Sometimes, something looks like it's been there a while.
We are here, the Three Gents at the 3 Points podcast, after a weekend break. A lot of stuff going on in the personal life. My brother's graduation. Shout out him. I'm currently in the Midwest visiting my cousins. Shout out them. So in all this chaos, we couldn't upload last week, so we apologize for that. But we're here today when it matters. The Western Conference has recapped. The Eastern has not recapped, has finished, and the
Capped.
Eastern Conference is also finished. So we're gonna talk about the remainder of the series, talk about what we had predicted, how they fared out, and game one of the finals has also finished. That was last night. I think we should start with the Western Conference Finals, the more fun, compelling series, the series that was definitely, absolutely not what any of us expected in our initial predictions. Yes, in our mid-series predictions, one of us changed their predictions for the outcome of the series, but this was nowhere near what any of us thought what was going to happen. Why don't open floor? Anyone who wants, any one of you two boys could start talking about what we went wrong with in our predictions, because we all had the Timberwolves. Two of us, Thomas had the Timberwolves in like 4. Timberwolves in 4.
He said 6. Yeah, he said 6.
Yeah, but like initially he was like, "Oh man, Timberwolves in 2."
I said 5 initially.
I
remember Wes was like, "Oh, what if like Luka's guarding him?" And you're like, "Timberwolves in 3."
Yeah.
So-
that was pretty funny.
That was really
That's an
funny.
example of good timing.
Good comedic timing. Actually, we were talking about comedic timing before we started the podcast episode. That was a great comedic timing. So shout out that joke. So open floor.
I guess my first thought is that what these playoffs have taught me is that matchups are the most important. And it's not about like which team is necessarily better in a vacuum. Because I think we would agree, like top to bottom, like the Minnesota Timberwolves, like they're deeper. Obviously, Luka and Kyrie both outplayed Anthony Edwards as a player, but like looking at the Timberwolves roster, like 1 to 15, it's just better than Dallas. Okay, second lesson. Not all teams are like or some teams are a sum of their parts. So like the way Dallas just like functions together, the way their 2 stars like complement each other is just like perfect, because I think like the problem with building a team around Luka is that his like the offensive load can sometimes be too big. But with a guy like Kyrie Irving, who can obviously not in game 1 of the finals, but throughout this Timberwolves series, he could take the load off Luka, let him rest, or just take possessions off, let Kyrie cook in isolation against whoever was guarding him, be it Ant, be it Kyle Anderson, be it Rudy Gobert on switches. But I mean, yeah, this just taught me, like, at the beginning of the series, we were all picking Timberwolves. And that's because they were the better team, but Dallas just has the 2 best players. The Timberwolves' weakness or their strengths kind of match up better with what Denver's strengths are. So that's why they can kind of actually beat Denver. But that's why I think like Denver, if they had made it to conference finals, they probably would have beat Dallas and made it to the finals. But because the Timberwolves beat them, then Dallas is the better team against the Timberwolves, and that's how they can kind of beat them. So I think it's just all about matchups. That's what this. I didn't really go too deep into this series in particular, but like the playoffs are just all about matchups, and it's not always about like the better team in a vacuum sometimes. So
Yeah, that's a really great point. I think it really highlights how playoff ball is so different than regular season ball. It's
For sure.
really different. It's almost 2 different games, to be honest. It's crazy how the schemes, the matchups, because again, it's a 7-game series. So all you're hyper focused. You're hyper focused on a team. And what did it show? I personally, I think where I went wrong and why it was immediately like the Timberwolves are going to go immediately was I could not predict or foresee the falling off a cliff of a Cat's performance. Him kind of reverting to his the unfortunate narratives that are against him. Playoff choker, doesn't show up. Excuse me. I did not foresee Ant being guarded as a team so well. I did not foresee that. It's they were doubling on him as he was cutting. This is all stuff we talked about in the last episode, so I don't want to dwell too much on it, but did not foresee that. It was amazing. Gafford and Lively were amazing in the paint. I also did not foresee McDaniels, who he was there. It was kind of like a Iguodala on LeBron type situation where it's like Luka is so great that even if you kind of annoy him, that's good enough. Wes was 110% correct. McDaniels was going to struggle. He was also correct that Derrick Jones Jr. was a good defender. On
Okay.
Anthony
Let me
Edwards.
just like
The Jaden
let me-
McDaniels West, I'll give you 150% credit,
Let's
but
go.
I'm gonna have to still disagree on the Derrick Jones Jr. But we can.
That's why we can agree to disagree. Agree to disagree. Thomas's least favorite statement.
I mean,
we'll
I do
agree to
agree with
disagree.
Thomas. I do agree with Thomas about like Derrick Jones Jr. I think it was just like this is the first time that a lot of the Timberwolves like offensive players, this is the first time they're seeing like real legit rim protection. Like against Denver, Jokic is not obviously like last year he was a good like kind of one-on-one defender, but rim protection that's never his strength. Like at Jokic's best as a defender, he's kind of got good hands. And then against the Suns, like Bismack Biyombo, that's their rim protection. But compared to, and obviously like we didn't even foresee this anyways, Lively and Gafford being like this good defensively, but this is like that was the first time Anthony Edwards, Cat, they're seeing like real rim protection where it's actually like Cat's already like kind of scared to go inside, and now he's facing like legit rim protection on top of like PJ Washington being like a very solid on ball defender. Obviously he's smaller, but when you have rim protection behind you, you can kind of be a little more aggressive. So it was just like the first time they were kind of like shook out of their boots. Obviously, Cat more than
Yeah, and
Ant.
I think the lack of playoff experience probably got to them too. You're in the Western Conference Finals when it was expected you're going to do well in the playoffs, but it was not expected for them to beat the Nuggets. So they were in unknown territory, and unfortunately, I think Luca and the Mavs were able to capitalize on their weaknesses. Ant not being a great playmaker, Cat not being able to like penetrate because of elite rim protection, and I think Gobert was just I guess I feel like again I still stand by this take. I think Gobert gets too much crap just because he's the DPOY and he's like the anchor of the defense. You get
some anchor.
you get
You mean
more
anchor
cooked
isn't like he
on,
drags them down to the bottom of the sea where they drown?
you get more cooked on the defensive end. That's how it works. Being a defender, you always look more stupid. Draymond's gotten his ankles broken in the past. It does not discredit his elite defensive capabilities. I think there's too much criticism and jumping at throats of defenders. Being a defender is different than being an offensive player. If you're an offensive player and you miss like 5 shots, that's a problem. But as a defensive player, if you get 2 blocks, 3 blocks, that's really good. It's a very different metric than we measure and we visualize offensive game. So it's unfair that he gets a lot of crap, albeit, am I super high on him? Not really. But I think the hate is a little bit too much. But
I mean, to be honest, he was really put in a really bad position to succeed in that series. So after game 1, Mike Conley said like, "Oh, we were running drop, but we weren't supposed to be running drop." Like he said, like, "Oh, like that was a failure in execution on our part." But then they just kept running drop for the whole series. And the problem is like Luka just victimized it every single time, and they never switched up. At a certain point, I was kind of just confused watching them. Like, I mean, it's the same thing every time. Literally, like it was like you were watching tape on rewind. Luka comes around the screen. Jaden McDaniels every single time he's trying to go over, but then Luka gets him on his back. Because of course he's not going to get over the screen in time. Rudy Gobert, who's in drop, is then forced to backpedal all the way to the rim until Luka either finishes with the floater or tosses a lob over his head to Gafford or Lively. And it was just over and over and over. And I didn't understand how they didn't try something else. Now, part of the problem is obviously you can't just switch because they're going to bring Gobert up into the pick and roll. And one thing you can't do is switch Gobert onto Luka. That's not going to work. So That's getting ahead, but this is a
Final
huge
possession of
advantage the
game two.
Celtics have. What's
Final
up?
possession of game. Final possession of game 1 or 2.
Yeah, I mean, yeah,
Do it.
you can't do that. So, but this is, by the way, this is a huge advantage that the Celtics have. But this is also a huge disadvantage that the what's it called? The
Timberwolves.
Nuggets the Nuggets didn't have against the Timberwolves, which is that Jokic is not going to be rolling to the rim as a lob threat in the way that Gafford or Lively are. So it's not as easy for them to really victimize the drop coverage in the way that the what's it called, the Mavericks did, which I think is probably a huge factor in why the Mavs made Timberwolves look so mortal, whereas the Nuggets, they got. I mean, they didn't get destroyed, but they were upset in a very severe way. I mean, that's my one takeaway. Like, big takeaway for the series is that specific coverage and their failure to adjust it probably doomed them in a lot of those games, because it really was often their defense that ended up giving out. I mean, not their offense was spectacular, but I think the most demoralizing thing when watching those games was just the consistent the bucket after bucket after bucket that some of those like third and fourth quarters turned into, where they just couldn't get any stops whatsoever. So yeah, I mean that would be my biggest takeaway. And that's why, like, I mean, look, I think that's a huge limitation of Rudy Gobert's game. The fact that he's not switchable, it forces them to run drop, which opens them up to being victimized like that. That would be my real criticism of Rudy Gobert, setting aside all the jokes. But to be fair, I would say I do think that makes him a little bit overrated as a defensive player. I do think somebody with obvious weaknesses like that probably doesn't deserve, 20
Facts.
PPOYs or however many he has, but still. I
totally agree
don't
with
want to go
that.
overboard on the hate. He's a very talented player.
That I get behind him. I could get behind, and that's what makes Draymond Green.
You do what with him?
That's a take I could get behind.
Get behind him.
Yeah, why would you get behind him?
That's a take.
Trying to see his dump truck or something. What?
Who needs enemies when you got friends like this? A brother misspoke. A host misspoke. That's a take. That's
He's
a take.
showing you his D. You're trying to show him your D.
That's a take I could get behind. And that's what makes Draymond Green so amazing. I just like, I have to really, again, we're a Golden State Warrior pod at heart. So every chance I could get, I gotta rep my boys. That's why he's one of the greatest defenders of all time. You could put him in any situation. He's so good. Oh my God, he's so good. He's so good. And I loved him on TNT. I don't care. I don't care what everyone says. Don't care. Don't care what the haters say. Don't care. He's funny. He's annoying. He gets under people's skin. Guess what? Suck it. All the Timberwolves, like those babies, F you Draymond, F you Draymond. He was like, I'm not even doing anything. It's Luka. Like, he's under everyone's skin. Suck it. Suck it. He's a 4-time champ. So, more circling back to the series, I think that mainly covers what we said last episode, what proved to be correct. I think it was a good decision to switch to the Mavs, because I just did not foresee. I just couldn't see them stopping Luka's elite playmaking ability. Oh my God, it really is so underrated. Sorry. I'm gonna take that back. It's not underrated. It's actually rated. Everyone knows he's the second best after Jokic.
Honestly, it's kind of underrated. He's so good. Like, you can't even overrate. I'm not trying to glaze.
He's amazing. He's amazing.
And
Yeah, and shout out the Mavs are in the finals now. Let's now go to the other side of the conference. We're going to the Eastern. A lot more straightforward. Yep, a yawn fest. West just yawned for the fans at home. That's how one of our co-hosts yawns. So so
I mean, if the Knicks made it, dude,
it would have been more entertaining if they weren't like all like
first ever 3-game series.
They weren't hospitalized, yeah.
3-game series, nah.
Yeah,
if they had their legs and limbs attached.
And three players.
And then in the Knicks' favor, yeah.
Yeah, no, because after game 3, they would have literally had so many injuries they would have had to call it off.
It would have been it would have been like legally they couldn't have started the game.
Literally.
Yeah. I wonder
in
if that's
FIFA and in FIFA and like soccer, if you have like a certain amount of players, if you have like less than 8 or 9 players, something like that. I remember when I was younger, they literally cannot start the game. It's like a forfeit. That's what would have happened in the series. It would have been the first ever 4-game sweep of forfeits. 4 games in a row, they would have had no players. I think this was a lot more of a straightforward series.
Let them play.
I think the best way I could summarize it, in my opinion, what my biggest takeaway was, it was in the Pacers' hands. Two of the games vividly, I remember, were two of them were in their hands. It was in winning's reach, and they fumbled. It was again unknown territory. The lights were too bright. There was coaching mistakes. There were player mistakes. They could not execute when it mattered. And the Celtics, yeah, it's an easier conference. Yeah, a lot of people think they're a Mickey Mouse team. They don't deserve their success, but they are used to being at this stage. They're experienced. They've been consistently coming to the Eastern Conference Finals. They came to the finals in 2022. Shout out the Warriors. The lights are not too bright for them. So they executed. They executed when it mattered, and they swept them. I think it wasn't a crazy thing to say that the Celtics were going to win, but I was hoping the Pacers could steal a game or two, which they very much could have. They very much could have. They had 2 games. So I think the Celtics, again, just what we said last episode, top to bottom, they were just objectively significantly better team. There was no comparison between the two. Insanely elite defense. Very good offensive pieces that maybe aren't the most gelled together because it's very much iso ball type play. But when you have talent like that, you have Brown, you have Tatum, when you have Derek White, iso ball works. And they didn't even have KP, which, again, it's a little bit of foreshadowing to the finals, clearly showed is very, 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 very good for them. And they swept them without KP. So shout out the Celtics. They got the job done. Another thing I think we forgot to mention, the Western Conference Finals MVP obviously was Luka for the last series. That was like no-brainer for all three.
Was it Tatum? Was it Tatum? He's their best player, right?
It was Jaylen Brown,
I was talking about the Mavs.
the $350 million man.
Yeah, that contract's not looking. It's insane, but like still, he's.
I mean, it's still a lot of money, but yeah.
I mean, it's a lot of money, but okay, not to really like. Again, I don't really. Okay, I remember when this whole hate was going on for giving the contract.
It's not insane though, to be honest.
It isn't, because what else were the Celtics supposed to do? That's my only question.
You're absolutely right.
Yeah, it seems absurd because it's like, whoa,
he's playing insane.
He's playing really well. He's playing the best basketball of his career right now. So, it was a good investment for them. They're in the finals, so clearly what they're doing is working. So that's like the main big things I could take away. I think the Pacers were really trying to do like big man things. They were trying to make Siakam and I forgot the other big man, Turner. They're trying to make them like play a lot when Halliburton wasn't when he got injured. And it was doing well. Like I think they had the lead and stuff. I think this was game 3 where Halliburton was injured, and they were doing like first quarter or so. It was just pass the ball in the post, let them cook, and Siakam was a amazing pickup for them. They definitely overachieved in the season. However they did it, injured Knicks, etc. They still did it, and they made it there. And shout out them. I think they should just run it back. They gotta fix their wing issue with the Nesmith. They gotta fix Nesmith. I think I think that's a big gaping weakness on their roster. Thomas was absolutely correct. He's kind of just standing there taking space. I noticed that.
Man, he just is not active enough, and he's not aggressive enough with his shot for him to be like a real threat, like off ball, like where teams have to worry about closing out to him. And then he's not, when they do close out, he's not aggressive attacking the rim off of closeouts, and he kind of just stands around and resets the offense. Wes kind of got into an argument with me in the chat about this. I just don't think he's that great of a player. I think he's like an eight or ninth guy in the rotation. I don't think he's meant to be in a starting 5 in a playoff team. Like I noted last pod, they do have Mathurin stashed away on the IL. I think he would have been, not that they would have won the series with him, but I think he might have stolen a game or two for them. I think he's probably a better option at that wing spot than Nesmith is. Nimhard, who kind of throughout like the past 2 years of his career has been probably like projected as a 6-man, had a phenomenal playoff series. I think he probably is still a career six man going forward for them, but it's clear that he has shot making ability, kind of in his back pocket that they could always go to in the future. I think it probably after this series and the good series he had previously, it's probably in their best interest to keep him around as long as they can. And then yeah, they have a great tandem of big men in Turner and Siakam, who I think complement each other really well. And the problem was just in this series was just the talent gap mostly, and also defensively. I don't think they get in. Again, I think it's probably coaching more than anything. Because yes, Halliburton is a pretty rough defender. Neesmith's a decent defender, but I mean, I'll give West's arguing he's a good defender. I'll just say he's a good defender.
Elite.
He's not a great defender. He's a good defender. He's not an elite defender. That's just fake. You can say that if you want. That's not true. But he's a good defender. Nembhard, not a great defender at all. Just too small. It's not like they don't have a wealth of defensive talent, right? But I don't think they get as much out of it as they could. They're constantly missing rotations, and they're sloppy in transition. They let guys get open threes in transition. They let guys beat them to the basket and get open layups. They just let guys get so many open shots. Even in the half court offense, they miss closeouts, they miss cutters. And then again, you have Tyrese and Nembhard. And at times during that series, I would even say Turner was getting abused on switches, just letting guys run open to the basket. So probably the biggest immediate upgrade that they need to find out a way to fix that wing spot and get one more like lengthy, switchable, good defender who is, ideally would be a 3-and-D guy who could fill that spot and then try to run it back when Halliburton's a year older, Nembhard's a year older, Mathurin's back. See what they have.
Bring back bring back Paul George.
And Tyrese is healthy. That's true.
Yeah.
He would be so nice for them.
That would
Paul
be
Although,
so nice.
to be fair, Paul George is the kind of guy who's just
We still in the
every team
Knicks.
can say he's so nice for them. He fits so
Very
well.
true. Very true. He's a versatile player.
Yeah.
He's a very versatile player.
Can't win though.
Well,
If he goes to the Knicks,
he has that
goes to the
issue.
Knicks or Sixers. Yeah, that's a team.
Sixers would. Oh my god, did he be so good on the Sixers?
Knicks, man. Oh my god.
And then Embiid would
He's gonna. I'm just saying he's gonna
He would,
he's
like,
gonna have a
crack
lot of
his-
shooters this
crack his-
offseason.
leg open and he would be out.
He probably
Yeah,
would.
they would get injured
Yeah.
on the same play, probably. Him and Embiid just like run into each other. 2 torn meniscuses or whatever. I was just gonna say like this series kind of, even though like the Celtics haven't really faced any real adversity, except I guess the finals. I mean the finals, yeah. The Dallas Mavericks are a legit team, but like on the way to the finals, they haven't really faced any legit adversity. But I feel like I remember in one of the games.
Asterisk.
Yeah, literally like 2 asterisks, honestly. maybe
Asterisk.
even. But I remember the one of the games. There was a close game in Indiana, and it wasn't the one where Jaylen Brown hit the shot. That was in Boston. But that game, I remember like Drew Holiday, Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum. They locked in defensively, and they just like stole the game right out of the Pacers' hands. Because I think the Pacers were up the majority of that game. They came back defensively, and they just
Yeah,
final
absolutely.
for the final 3 minutes.
You're talking about game 4. Last game, close that game. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember like the Pacers, they just had or the Celtics, they had like a stranglehold on the Pacers. The Pacers could not score against these elite defenders just locked
They
in.
couldn't
Without
score for the
KP.
last 3.5 minutes of the fourth quarter, I believe, or some insane thing.
Yeah,
like
it
that.
was.
Yeah.
It was insane.
And I remember just like the Indiana crowd just like had the life sucked out of them because it was like, okay, eventually like we're gonna score. Like we were up this entire game. The Celtics went on their run. Now it's tied. We're gonna score eventually, right? But then like just this clutch defense. I remember it was like the crucial. It's like a minute left. Drew Holiday stole it from, I want to say Nembhard, because Nembhard was having like a fire ass game. He had like 27 points, I want to say. And that was like even without that 3 minute stretch, they were not scoring. And then Drew Holiday just like in transition, maybe they're going to score, and then Drew Holiday just rips it from him in like a crucial moment. Their defense locked in. Their defense is better than anybody else's locked in, even better than the Timberwolves, I think, just because of the versatility, the size. Like 1 through 5, they're all elite. I don't know. This team is incredible. Like
I
on
think
both ends.
you're thinking of it was Tatum who stole not Drew Holiday.
No, it was definitely Drew Holiday. Jason Tatum. It was. Are you sure it was against Nembhard? That's why I'm pretty sure it was a
Yes,
guard
it
on
was.
guard.
Yeah, it was. Interesting. No, at the 90-second mark, 1 minute 30 seconds, the game's tied. Nembhard gets the ball he gets the ball in transition, and then Tatum immediately rips it from him, and they go back down the court. And
I think it was even later, like less than a minute left. I want to say. I mean, he might have got ripped twice. But they didn't score for that 3 minutes. So
he also got Nembhard also got packed by Jaylen Brown in like at 1 minute of that game. And then he got packed by Jaylen Brown, and they immediately went back down in transition, and Derek White hits a 3, and that's the last points that are scored in that game.
Yeah, but
that's another thing the Celtics bring that's so insane is that they can just so many guys can hit a big 3 at any moment, contested too. Doesn't always matter.
Tatum can't, but everybody else.
It's true. Everybody else, everybody except the best player on the team.
Yeah. No, but I mean, I was also like earlier in the playoffs, I was like praising Derek White for just like always being in the right place at the right time, and he just always is. It doesn't always show up as like a defensive highlight like Drew Holiday stealing it, or Jaylen Brown blocking, or Jason Tatum stealing it. But Derek White is he just always know how to perfectly help, where to be for the rebound when there's a rebound. Like remember last year down 0-3 in Miami, he was the one that got the offensive rebound and put it back for the win to force a game 7. He's just, I mean, that's just another play where he's just like, I don't know, like an intangible. He's kind of like Draymond in that way, where he knows how to impact winning. That doesn't necessarily always show up in the stat sheet, but it's elite. It's championship level, which is why they're potentially probably gonna win the championship this year because of guys like him.
I think that's a perfect segue to the finals. Game 1 was yesterday. It was a dominating win by the Celtics. Wasn't even a close game. At one point, there looked like a little bit of life in the Mavs when it was an 8-point game in the third. But I think just immediate reactions to game 1, and then we could get into our predictions. So each of us could give our game 1 reactions and then our predictions for the series. Kristaps Porzingis, again, naturally, when you're in school, when you have responsibilities, you can't watch every team in the league. Obviously, our specialty is the Warriors, so I'm hyper-focused on the Warriors. Didn't get a chance to watch much of the Celtics throughout the season. He is a much bigger piece than I expected for the Celtics. Not only offensively, because albeit offensively, he had a extremely good game. I don't expect him to have that game every game. But even on the defensive end, he was an absolute nuisance in the rim protection. It was literally, it was suffocating for the Mavs to try to just go for lays. If you just get up, put his tall arms up, and it looked like they just couldn't do anything. It was crazy. He was blocking shots. He blocked Kyrie. He was like at that one play where it was like a jumper. Like it was suffocating. I think that's like the best way to put it. It looked like the Mavs offense was suffocated by KP's elite rim protection, and as we've been saying the whole time, the just elite defensive capabilities of each player on the team. I think I've been hating on the Celtics too much. I think unironically they are a great team. They're a great team. They're built well. They're coached well. They have talent. Yeah, the Tatum hate is funny because it's funny, like those TikToks and that one guy dancing and stuff. That's hilarious. But they're
also
an elite.
True.
I think he is.
It's also just true.
I agree.
He's like the fourth best player on the. He was like the fourth best player on the court last night.
Agreed. I'm just saying about the Celtics as a team overall. I'm not trying to get individually between Tatum, Brown, etc. It is honestly, I think they're absolutely going to win the finals. In my opinion, it makes me sad because I really want the Mavs to win. But without getting to my prediction yet, because we just want to do the game 1 reaction, KP's impact was amazing. He was hitting shots like I was like baffled. I was like, what is going on? His play is genuinely one of the most unique big man play style I've ever seen. He's like doing a triple threat and stuff to a dude who's like 6 inches shorter than him. And then he's hitting a jumper. Like I was like, bro, it's actually unbelievable. I was genuinely shocked at him playing like a guard as a 7-foot man on the offensive end. Triple threat, jab.
He's not just a 7-footer. He's 7'3". He's more than a 7-footer.
Unbelievable. It's crazy. I was shocked, and it's just because I just haven't seen him play enough this season. It's amazing. He averaged about 20. I think a little bit more than 20 points this season. elite rim protection. I did not know KP's an elite rim protector. Excuse me, a little Diet Coke burp. I didn't expect it. And amazing piece of the team. He came back at the right time, and it's clearly he was huge. Suffocating. That's my one word takeaway. Oh, let's do a one word. We gotta do that. One word from everyone.
Okay, after you
You did like
after
you did like 2 minutes.
your
All right,
10,000
you guys are. Stuck
You
to
guys
one
only
word.
get one word. Sorry.
Okay.
No. So say one word and then obviously elaborate.
Um,
Uh,
dude,
Thomas's kryptonite. He can't do it.
it literally. I have like
Wait,
a
wait.
mental disability when it comes to one word summaries. I cannot.
Can the word have like hyphens where it's like
Sure. Why not?
Like an overwhelming task.
okay, Nazi lookalike? That's the guy. We all know who I'm thinking of.
I mean, really, honestly, like if you go back like 50, 60 years, and if I see that picture, like if of that dude walking like in Europe somewhere, I'd be like, damn, dude, like. Thank God he changed the hair though. Like when he had like the part, the part that looked even worse. Now at least with the
Yeah.
buzz, he kind of looks like it doesn't look as like dominating. You know what I mean? But okay, Nazi lookalike. How about some basketball analysis?
Oh, me? I can't just go with that.
If you want.
Mismatch.
That's a good one. And then you could elaborate now. Floor is yours.
Oh, I can. Okay. I thought
I give you permission.
Okay, thank you. I mean, mismatch is just because Kristaps is the best mismatch attacker in the league. I mean, like shooting up, he's like Thomas said, he's 7'2", 7'3". There's nobody that can really guard him, especially with this Dallas defense that relies so much on their rim protection, be it Derek Lively and Daniel Gafford. They have to guard up on Kristaps Porzingis if they have any hope of even stopping him. Like obviously he's pulling from like 27 feet. That's kind of hard to guard regardless, even if you're up on him. But you're not guarding Rudy Gobert anymore. Rudy Gobert, he's a fantasy. You're guarding Kristaps Porzingis, who can pull from like Hassan said, he's a 3-level scorer. There's no
He
winning
is.
against him unless he just doesn't have a shot going. And seeing that he had his shot going coming off an injury, good luck having that get any worse. I mean, obviously he had like a fluky shooting game, I would say, but obviously that leg is looking pretty good. He's attacking his matches pretty comfortably. And we didn't even get like an elite game from the Jays or Derek White or Drew Holiday. Obviously they played their role defensively. They played incredible. All these guys hitting threes. Even Sam Hauser looked pretty solid on Luka somehow. But I mean, yeah, I think it just starts with Kristaps Porzingis attacking, being aggressive, attacking like whoever's on him, and that just makes their offense like flow even better. I mean, obviously it's like relies on isolation a lot, but Kristaps Porzingis is like there's no good matchup for him. So mismatch.
Last but not least.
Yeah, I mean,
Concluded.
okay. I was waiting for our host to cue me up. No, I mean, okay. I guess if I have to do one word in the spirit of camaraderie, I guess I'll say
Can't be Nazi
shooting.
lookalike. Okay.
Yeah, I guess I'll say shooting, which is
That's
what
a good
I'd
one.
always say for the Celtics. I mean, it's just the Celtics. I've complained a lot about how ugly their offense is, and my complaints still stand. I think nothing's really changed about it. I will say Kristaps does insert a certain. There's something. It's definitely more entertaining to watch him like face up and like attack mismatches than it is to watch like Jason Tatum chuck up, 28-foot 3-pointers. So he does.
Why
He
is
does.
that? Why do you like watching Kristaps more than these other guys?
Bro, dude, if Jason Tatum played like he should, dude, Jason Tatum should literally be playing like a mini Embiid. That's how he should be. That's how he should be playing. He should be attacking inside constantly, trying to get work within like inside of like 15 feet, getting like little bunnies, getting himself to the free throw line, getting himself attempts at the rim. That's how he should be playing. But he doesn't play like that. That's a different discussion. What I want to talk more so about is the way that the Celtics turn the game of basketball into this big fucking math equation where they say, okay, we know we have 5 guys on the court who can shoot 38% from 3 on average. So we want to give them as many 3-point attempts as we possibly can. And if some of those are contested or some of those don't really come in the flow of the offense and they're just kind of jacking them up, that's okay because they're all talented enough to hit them anyways. We don't care. And it works. It's basically always worked. It's worked for them this whole season. It worked for them last night. The reason that they had got built up such a big lead was because they hit a bunch of threes. When they went on their cold stretch, it was because they were missing threes. And when they put the game away, it's because they started hitting threes again. And it's not. And yes, Kristaps Porzingis was obviously he was the one guy who wasn't really doing that. He was working inside the arc, working from like 17, 18 feet, hitting all those insane, ridiculous, face-up shots that you guys were talking about. And that does add a different element. I think makes it even more difficult to guard. But for the most part, it's just a lot of chucking threes. I mean, we saw this 5-6 years ago with the Rockets, that team. Everybody was, I mean, some people were praising it, analytics people were praising it, a lot of people were hating on it because they thought it was boring. But it's the same thing. They're going to take 35, 43s a game, and if they hit enough of them, they're probably going to win because it's really tough to match that volume and that efficiency. I remember during that stretch when the Mavericks were coming back and like making it a close game, Doris Burke said something like, the Celtics, like they just didn't come out with enough energy this quarter. It's like, no, you moron. They stopped hitting their shots. They stopped hitting threes. Like that's what the Celtics do. That's how they run their offense. Like that's what they turn the game into. And again, it's that offense paired with just this phenomenal suffocating defense. It's only become more suffocating now that they've added Kristaps, who's a great rim protector. And when you compare, like when you go 1 to 5 and you think, all right, 5 best scorers on the Mavericks versus 5 best scorers on the Celtics. You have 1 and 2, Kyrie and Luka versus 1 and 2, JB and JT. Okay. Maybe slight advantage in the favor of the Mavs. Not when Kyrie's playing like he was last night, but we'll assume that's a slight advantage going forward if Kyrie has better games. 3 to 5, 3, 4, and 5. You're talking PJ Washington, Daniel Gafford, Derek Lively, Josh Green, Tim Hardaway, like who you can't even form a ranking. Versus for the Celtics, you have KP, Derek White, and Drew Holiday, all of whom are like I said already, 38% 3-point shooters, and 40% on a good night, and B can actually attack in other ways, whether it be driving to the rim. In Kristaps' case, of course, the face-up game. In Drew's case, he's probably the most limited guy they have out there, but he also happens to be the best defensive guard in the NBA, so it all evens out. The talent deficit just is pretty stark, I guess, when you frame it that way. And what you have to assume for the Mavs to win any given game is essentially that Luka is like twice as good as the Celtics' best player, and that Kyrie is like as good as the Celtics' best player, and then you hope that makes up for everything else the Celtics are going to do, like in the aggregate. Yeah, I mean, it doesn't look good. It doesn't look good for the Mavs. I would still actually wait. I don't know if we're doing predictions yet.
So
But-
yeah, I think we'll pause there briefly. Now let's kind of do more overall predictions for the series. We'll just go circle. I'll start first. I think I gotta have the Celtics in. My gut's saying 6. I gotta go with 6. I think maybe the Mavs could steal a game or two. I think like realistically, the Celtics go into a 3-1 lead, and then the Mavs steal 1, 3-2, and then the Celtics win 4-2. That's what I really think will happen. And it's just more or less of what we've been repeatedly saying. I think the big difference between the Timberwolves and the Celtics is that each player is such a good on-ball defender that Luka and Kyrie they're not forcing them to bring the double. So it's not allowing Luka to play make as he was able to do against the Timberwolves. He gets past McDaniels. McDaniels on his back. All right, Cat or Gobert has to come, or Naz Reid has to come pressure him for the soft double. Boom, lob for Gafford, lob for Lively. This is not the case now because guess what? To just beat, excuse me, damn these Diet Coke burps. To just beat like a guy like Drew Holiday for Kai, it's a task. It is extremely difficult for Luka to beat. I believe I believe Derek White was the main matchup on Luka for.
I thought it was Jaylen Brown.
They switch everything basically. There's no real. It's tough to say. They switch so much.
And why do they switch things around? Because they literally can. They have
exactly. Yeah.
defenders. It's actually kind of eye opening now that I've been like really seeing the Celtics against, I would say, a quality opponent in the regard that, I mean, the Mavs beat the Thunder, the Mavs beat the Clippers, the Mavs
They're a legit team. They're
the
legit.
Wolves, and the Celtics are proving themselves because it's like yeah. What I was back to what I was saying, like they just keep on. They for Luka to beat Brown, for him to beat Derek White, for him to beat JT or whoever's on him at the time, it's a task, and he can't just go past, force a soft double, play make. It's not as simple anymore, unfortunately, because you force Gobert out, you force Cat out, the rim protection's gone. And then the elite lob threats that you have in Gafford and Lively are able to thrive. Lively, I believe, had like 2 points last night, 3 points, something like that. At least in the up until the end of the game, and I think in the fourth.
I'm pretty sure they were off. It was like off of an offensive rebound.
Lively had 2 points. Yeah, Lively had 2 points. Yeah, it was versus like against the Wolves, he was like getting like 10, 12, 14, whatever. So I think that's the biggest difference now. So they're really, like I said earlier, they're suffocating Luka's playmaking. Now, when they're suffocating that avenue, he has to rely much more heavily on his shot creating. And of course, he's also great at that. But naturally, you're not going to hit 12 out of 12 shots. And when you're supporting Cass is not doing that role, which Kyrie unfortunately did not show up last night, which is very big. Even if Kyrie is there, I think it's a closer game. I still see the Celtics winning it, but it's not a blowout like it was last time. Last time it wasn't even a competitive match. And I think those are my main two things. I want to leave more like room. I want to leave some stuff for you guys to kind of note on or talk about in your prediction for the series. But yeah, I unfortunately I have Celtics in 6. I don't like them as a franchise. They're annoying. Their fan base is annoying. I don't want anyone to think that because I think they're a great team, they've well coached and good, that I have a soft spot for them. Nah, screw the Celtics. Screw them. We own you guys. Steph is your guys' dad. Dre is your guys' dad. They were chanting "F you, Draymond." What's up with it though? So don't like them, but you got to give credit where credit is due. I think they're the 2024 champs. And it's been coming for a while. They've been consistently getting here, and I think they deserve it.
Yeah, I mean that's what you mentioned about like the taking away the playmaking stuff. Like I do think a huge part of it is, and I talked about this earlier, like when we were talking about Timberwolves Mavs. Like the fact that they switch everything means that there's no more drop coverage, and it means that instead of Luka getting to attack that perpetual 2-on-1 where he gets this defender on his back, he has a man in front of him at all times, which means that the guy who's on the big, whoever is rolling with him, and that makes the lob a lot more difficult. And when you go back and watch that Timberwolves series, a lot of the assists that Luka was picking up was specifically off of that action. And it was either just a basic lob to the big, or somebody has to come down and rotate to the big, and then because he's Luka, he's always going to hit that kickout pass. Like he gets it every time. When that's taken away, like, what is he hitting? Yeah, well, I mean, what is he hitting? He's hitting either on a couple possessions. I remember he's hitting like PJ Washington for an open 3 that he missed because PJ Washington, and despite his great performance this playoffs, he's still a career like 34% 3-point shooter. Or he's literally just kicking it out to a guy who with a man on him and entirely resetting the offense. Like there's nothing happening. The possessions where they got good offense was mostly Luka literally creating stuff for himself against a one-on-one matchup and hitting a step back 3 or hitting a midi or hitting a little floater or something like that. Or was Kyrie doing that when he was, but most of the time when he was getting those ISOs, he was doing nothing with them and, shucking up bricks. And I think that it's tough for me to say, like, the defense, I mean, it's the Celtics, so the defense on Kyrie was great, but there was nothing that made me go like, oh, like Kyrie's in trouble. It was mostly just he's having a bad game. He's missing shots. He's dribbling the ball off his leg. It almost felt like he was playing nervous, which is kind of insane because it's Kyrie Irving. Like this dude has about 100 billion playoff games in his back pocket. You'd think he would be past that by now. But yeah, I mean, I think my prediction is just to get out of the way. It's still going to be Celtics in 6, what I had before the series. If you had asked me before like the series, I would have said Celtics probably take game 1 anyway, so nothing really changes there. And there's like I said, there's nothing about the way that they were defending Kyrie that made me really scared for him. So I would personally put my money on him playing better the rest of the series, at least compared to his game 1 performance, and I think that'll help them steal a few games. And I wouldn't count out a big performance from PJ Washington or Derek Jones or one of those role players where they go like 7 of 10 or something from three, and that hot shooting keeps them in games. So that kind of stuff can still happen. But yeah, I mean, there's no path. There's nothing like for the Mavs to victimize, right? There's nothing for them to take advantage of that was obvious that they just have to like adjust to. Like, it just feels like the Celtics have defensive personnel that's at such a level where they can switch everything and basically negate most of what the Mavs want to do, and that's a really bad problem for the Mavs to have. So yeah, Celtics in 6. I would not be shocked in 5. But I'm gonna go with 6. Kyrie and Luka is too much offensive talent.
Yeah, I mean,
Last but not least, Wes.
I'll echo a lot of what you guys said. Like, the defense is just seems impenetrable sometimes. Sometimes Luka just has to brute force it, score in isolation through a step back, or a floater or a midi. And I mean, you guys kind of beat to death the point about just like the switchability of the Celtics. Like, that pick and roll is just not there anymore, like it was in the Timberwolves series. None of those kickouts are there anymore. Like, I know Luka, he thrived on obviously the pick and roll, but like his kickout passes were like, some of those were like highlights of themselves. Like him just like driving it, and there's like 10 bodies in, or like, it can't be 10, but like 6 bodies in there, and then somehow the ball just, you see it like going out to like Kyrie on the wing somehow, and it's like a dot, it's like a dart right to Kyrie.
Yeah.
And that's like an incredible look. Kyrie, obviously, make or miss, that's a quality look. You're not getting those same looks. Obviously, we got like some pretty wide open like PJ Washington threes, some Derek Jones Jr. threes, and they're just clanking them. And if they're not in rhythm, those are the kind of guys that they have to be in rhythm to really have a good 3-point shooting game. And if they're not in rhythm, if they don't see like an easy look go in, then it's kind of hard to see the harder ones go in where the closeout coming. Kyrie's not getting any open looks. It's kind of like Luka, he just has to score in isolation. That's the most effective they're going to be. I don't know. I mean, it's not really like Luka can like solve this, because they're switching everything. They're guarding him one-on-one. Obviously, Luka's an incredible, like one of the best one-on-one players in the league at this point. Similar to KP, he's like a great mismatch attacker. There's not really like a good matchup for him. Now, obviously, they have pretty good bodies like Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, Derek White, even Drew Holiday's like pretty similar to Lou Dort, which kind of gave Luka a little bit of problems. But Luka's just gonna have to find a way to score in isolation enough, and somehow like get his guys involved. I just don't know. I can't foresee that happening enough to like push this series past 6. That's where like I see it going at most 6, and like honestly, my prediction is Celtics in 5, just because the odds are too stacked against them. I mean, the recipe I see them winning that one game is Kyrie obviously has to be like way better. Luka has to be way better, because even in isolation they weren't like too successful. Luka obviously finished with 30, but that's just like the average Luka game. He's going to get 30 no matter what. Oh, you want to say something real quick?
I was gonna say, no, sorry. I was just gonna say one other thing, because we're focusing right now on the Mavs offense. One other thing that could really come in key for the Mavs in the game is Celtics cold shooting night. Celtics, the way that they play it does expose them to that. They've had problems with. Now, they haven't had that many problems in playoffs, period. But when they have had problems, it's almost always involved cold shooting for them. So I would add that in.
Yeah, I mean, I can see that happening. I just feel like KP kind of adds a new element. Like I was not really foreseeing him being this like not healthy, but like this kind of like in shape and like ready to go like right away. Like he was straight out the gate. He was like knocking down daggers, and it was just
him in the chamber somewhere.
Yeah, and yeah, but like I don't know. I mean, I don't believe in like Jason Tatum necessarily like rising above the moment if there is cold shooting, obviously. But I just think like Jaylen Brown's too skilled of a scorer to not go inside. Like he put a couple guys on a poster this past game. He wasn't. It's not like they just had a purely good shooting game. Like obviously they did, but a lot of their guys were not scared of going inside and yamming it on a dude. You know,
absolutely. There was that one play where JB went in. Literally, he got past 2 guys. Then there was 2 guys at the rim. He scored like that one play. He beat 4 of their defenders. I was like, that's when I knew. I was like, yo, this is not looking great.
Yeah, I mean, I was gonna say like if it was just like purely like hot shooting, then like okay, there's a path to victory. Like potentially, like maybe the Mavs can like play up to their level defensively, lock down their guys, and just like Luka and Kyrie can get it going. But like when the defense, like their defense knows how to lock in, like they can seize the moment. When they cut it to 8, they called timeout. Was it Udoka or is it? No, he got fired, right?
It's Joe Mazzulla.
Joe Mazzulla.
Yeah, Joe Mazzulla. Yeah. let's hope he doesn't get fired. But like he called a timeout, and they got that like that went from 8 to it kind of ballooned back up to like 20. I want to say maybe not 20, but it ballooned back up. It never got that close again, and that is that elite coaching, like managing the game when your guys are like kind of relaxing a little bit, call a timeout, get them locked back in, like lock these guys down. The Celtics are capable of just eliminating any offense that the Mavericks can unleash. So yeah, I mean, I'm gonna say Celtics in 5.
Yeah, I think it's
To
unfortunate
be
that
different.
I've been doubting the Mavs since the second round.
Oh.
My dad was actually making fun of me because he would like every time before the series began, he's like, "What do you think about the Mavs and Thunder?" I was like, "Man, the Thunder are gonna win in 5." What about the Mavs and Timberwolves? Bro, Timberwolves are winning in 6. And now, I mean, I hate to doubt them because truly they've proven me wrong. They've proven Thomas wrong 3 times against the Clippers too. So it sucks to go against them
Clippers
so
gave them the best
consistently.
series, by the way.
Can you repeat that?
Clippers gave them the best series. I'm just saying
Honestly, that's not an insane
they
take.
did.
Literally,
But-
it's literally not even crazy. It's not crazy to get behind that. But anyways, I think
I think it was the craziest prediction, like pre-series, to pick the Mavs. That was like the craziest.
yeah,
Because like
absolutely.
the other matchups, it's kind of closer. But
Yeah,
Clippers.
absolutely. I think it's gonna take something magical for them to even potentially take this to even like 7 and try to win. It's gonna take like some Dirk-esque type behavior. And the Mavs, they've done it before. So who knows? I just think the Celtics are overwhelmingly better. It's like suffocation is like I really like that word. It's really suffocating. It's
Okay.
tough. Not to self-glaze, but shout out that word. So I think if there's anything else anyone wants to say, go ahead. Last remarks. If you want to cuss out JT a little bit more, cuss out the Celtics.
Yeah,
Say anything,
fuck JT.
say anything nice about Draymond, the Warriors. Anything you want to say anything about that, guys?
Who do you guys think is your Finals MVP? Who's your pick?
Ooh, that's a great question.
Like
Jaylen
not
Brown.
just not just based off of game 1, like
Easy.
prediction for the rest.
Easy. Yeah, no, Jaylen Brown.
I'd agree
Okay,
with that.
okay.
I'd
Same.
agree with that. I would have to agree with that. I could potentially see like if Tatum
KT.
somehow like starts leading the offense like he's like what he's like expected to be, you know? Yeah, but I doubt it. Yeah, Jaylen Brown, like a nice safe pick. No need to say someone controversial and then have a debate for no reason. Go with
Yeah.
Jaylen Brown.
I
All right,
agree.
I think that's a good ending point. We're gonna catch you guys next week, when I believe we'll be done with 2 more games. So it'll be game 3. It will be finished. Hopefully the Mavs could salvage something. Ideally, I really want the
Hopefully
Mavs
it'll be 2-1 and not.
Same.
Hopefully it'll be 2-1 and not 3-0 because
Absolutely,
that'd be very boring.
absolutely. We're gonna end it here. You guys have yourself a lovely summer.